As we continue to celebrate Black History Month, a local activist is organizing what's expected to be a huge family reunion. He's seeking family members of those who were slaves. Minister Stretch Sanders says he and some relatives have contacted hundreds of others from families originating in the early 1800s. That includes Lutetia Bird Jordan, seen here, and Nicholas Jordan. He says they were slaves and became landowners after emancipation. He says their kids, his great-grandparents, were born free and also owned land. Sanders says this is really an American story about the successes of people after they were held as slaves and their siblings.
Slavery did a great deal of damage to the Black family. And so for us to restore the Black family and for us to heal, we need to go back and start discovering who our ancestors were and what they did and what they accomplished.
Minister Sanders says he expects hundreds of people to attend the family reunion in Mississippi in 2025. He also organized an event this Friday to educate people on how to discover their family tree and even organize a family reunion. It's from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. this Friday at God's House International Ministries. The address is 3940 North Martin Luther King Boulevard, Suite 100.